Alright, today's subject, slavery.
Slavery. I thought it was
Exact
racism.
same thing. Alright, so in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 12:13, it says, "For we are all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, we are all given the one Spirit to drink." And then in 1 John 2:11, it says, "But anyone who hates a brother or sister is in darkness and walks around in darkness. They do not know where they are going because the darkness has blinded them." 1 Samuel 16:7, it says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at, but look at the outward appearance. But the
Oh.
Lord looks at the heart." And then Colossians 3:13, it says, "Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." And then Exodus 22:21, "Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt." So these kind of all come together in saying that again, we are all one spirit, a brother or sister, and God looks at the heart. And if
Mm-hmm.
we have a grievance against someone, forgive them, and do not oppress a foreigner, for we were once foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, not one of these verses has really pointed out anything that has to do with race besides this one. But it's just saying, like, it doesn't matter who you are, you're all baptized by one spirit, whether you're Jew or Gentile, black or white, slave or free, like, it doesn't matter. And then in Romans 10, this is a big one that I put down. It's basically the chapter, but it's saying, "Brothers and sisters, my heart desire and prayer to God for the Israelites is that they may be saved. For I can testify about them that they are zealous for God, but their zeal is not based on knowledge, since they did not know the righteousness of God and sought to establish their own. They did not submit to God's righteousness. Christ is the accumulation of the law, so that there may be righteousness for everyone who believes." Moses writes about this Moses writes this about the righteousness that is by the law. "The person who does these things will live by them." But the righteousness that is by faith says, "Do not say in your heart, 'Who will ascend to heaven?'" That is, to bring Christ down. "Or who will descend into the deep?" That is, to bring Christ up from the dead. But what does it say? "The word is near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart." That is the message concerning faith that we proclaim. If you declare with your mouth, "Jesus is Lord," and believe in your heart that God raised him up from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you will believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. As scripture says, anyone who believes in him will never be put to shame. For there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is the Lord of all and richly blesses all who call to him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can we call on the one that have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? It is written, 'How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news.'" But not all the Israelites accepted the good news, for Isaiah says, "Lord, who has believed our message?" Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ. But I ask, did they not hear? Of course they did. Their voice has gone out into all the earth, their words to the end of the world. Again I ask, did Israel not understand? First Moses says, I will make you envious by those who are not a nation. I will make you angry by a nation that has no understanding. And Isaiah boldly says, I was found by those who did not seek me. I revealed myself to those who did not ask for me. But concerning Israel, he says, all day long have I held out my hands to a disobedient and obstinate people. Again, Jesus is saying here, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raises him from the dead, you'll be saved. He didn't say white people will be saved. He didn't say Jews will be saved. He said if you declare with your mouth. Anyone who speaks those words will be saved. And again, he says the same thing in this book, which goes back to our other one we read that said, if I can find it. But anyways, it said like, whether you Jew or Gentile and all that, it doesn't matter. If you proclaim his name, then you'll be saved with him. And in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, this is the beginning of the book, basically. And it says, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have domain over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So man, being in a general sense, saying man and woman, mankind, was made in God's image. And we're all the same. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. And there's no difference between, our colors. And then go on to Exodus, where it's mentioning slaves. Exodus chapter 21. It says, now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th he shall go free for nothing. If he came by himself, which he sold himself, or for any reason, like needing work, wanting to marry their daughter, anything like that, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go with him. If his master gave him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go by himself. If the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the door post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. If a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the manservants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed, to sell her unto a strange nation. He shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. And if he have betrothed her unto a son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters, which she's no longer a slave, she's his son's wife. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall not diminish. And if he do not use these 3 unto her, then she shall go free without money. He that smiteth a man so he die shall surely be put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him unto his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor, to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar, that he may die. Basically, don't murder people.
Yeah.
And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. And he that stealeth a man, and selleth him, big one, or if he be found in his hand, shall surely be put to death.
Wow. No slavery.
No slavery. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with a fist, and he did not die, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad his staff, then shall he smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. If men strive, and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according to the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. So if a man kills the child of a woman because he hurt that woman, he shall be punished, depending on what the husband judges says. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wood for wood, stripe for stripe. So that's basically, this is where that thing comes in. People still kind of, say that today. If you hurt me, then I hurt you, kind of thing. And if a man smite the eye of his servant, or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. So again, if you hurt your servant, and in this instance, you take his eye, then you let him go free. He's no longer your slave. And if you smite out his manservant's tooth, or his maidservant's tooth, shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. If an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner, and he hath not kept him in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner shall also be put to death. So basically, it sounds like he let his ox out free, and because he didn't keep it, within its pen or whatever, and it killed somebody, the owner also is charged with basically killing that person. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life, whosoever is laid upon him. Whether he had gored a son, or gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto the master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. If a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit, and not cover it, and the ox or ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurt another's, that he die, then they shall sell the live ox, and divide the money of it, and the dead ox shall also they divide. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in past time, and his owner hath not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. Alright, so that was a lot.
Wow.
But basically, there's no mention in the Bible of racism being okay. And even with slaves, yes, there were slaves in the Bible, but it's not in the way that we think. It's more of somebody selling themselves because they need work, or just like with Rachel, they needed, he wanted the daughter. He worked those 7 years for Rachel, didn't get her. The man gave him the other daughter. So he worked another 7 years so he can have Rachel. So now he had 2 wives, kind of thing. And stuff like that. It's not because they were being sold. If anything, what we read before, it's saying that if you sell or, kidnap and take a man in order to be a slave, then you're gonna be murdered. You're gonna be put to death
I
because
see.
it's what he preaches against. Um, and then in Colossians 4:1 says, "Masters, give unto your servants which that which is just and equal, knowing that ye also have a master in heaven." And then Exodus 21:26, which we read before, says, "If a man smite the eye of his servant, or the eye of his maidservant, that it perish, he shall let him go free of his eye's sake." Again, you're not allowed to abuse them. And they're more servants, as they were called, rather than slaves. Because that's what it's meant to be. And back in olden times and stuff, it's very common for people to have servants and stuff like that.
Right.
But he reiterates here in most of the law, whenever throughout the Bible, and all these Romans, Exodus, Colossians, Samuel, John, that what African Americans and so on went through, it's not as the Bible intended, because no man should have to go through that. They were meant to be equal to their masters, because we also have a master in heaven, in a sense. And that's basically it on that. There's no point of racism or slavery allowed in the Bible. And
So
speaking,
we're all the same in God's eyes.
we're all the same in God's eyes, correct? And speaking on slavery with my own opinion, yeah, it's wrong, and it should never have happened. If there's no reason that any one race, whether it be, Scottish slaves, white slaves, Mexican slaves, black slaves, any sort of slave, it shouldn't have happened.
Right.
If somebody wanted to come from one country to go to another and be a servant, then that's one thing. Just like,
Right.
it's not the same, but just like my coworker at work, she's Cuban. She came to America to work here and send money back home, and then she's gonna go back home and, you know, use that profit to build a life there. And that's basically what it should be.
Right.
Not stealing them and then forcing them to work. But racism today, in today's time, in other countries, sure, there still is slavery, but here in America, there's not. There's no thing that one race has that another race can't get. Not that I've seen. And I think with also racism, it's also still in people rather than it actually being real and out there. Because there's still white people that don't like the blacks, and there's still black people that don't like the whites, kind of thing. Like, I experienced racism myself, and I didn't even put it out. I was asking about coffee at work, and she got angry saying that I'm racist because I'm at her or something. It was a whole thing. And I was just asking people to reload the coffee whenever it was over, because I was working at IHOP at the time. And then another time I was working at Boston Market. And this lady came in wanting to get a refund for her food, but she didn't bring her receipt. And it's store policy, just like anywhere else. If you don't have your receipt, you can't return things, especially because she didn't bring the food back.
Right.
And then she called me racist, and even went on Google reviews and said that I was racist because I wouldn't give her her food. But if you really think about it, if I was the same color as you, presenting the same issue with the same policy, would I then be racist? Or is it because I'm white? It's thrown around so much. It like the word has little to no meaning anymore because anything that anyone does can be racist just because it's something that you don't like, in a sense. So I think that with opportunity, there's no racism, but it's still embedded into people because media is feeding it so hard, and it's definitely not okay in the Bible. So with that, that's what I had on racism. So
Yay.
again, God does not believe it. Any man, woman, Gentile or Jew, white or black, we're all this we're all mankind. We're all different shades of brown in his eyes. He doesn't look at our outward appearance, he looks at our heart. So racism exists, but with God it doesn't exist. He made us all in his image. And that's what I have. So thank you for coming.
Gorgeous. Thank you. Amen.
Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Alright, sounds good. Thank you for coming.